What's like the chat? Help me out here. What's the lowest tier fantasy? Like no magic. I imagine maybe one of the Conan games. Just like the lowest fantasy game as far as like a sword fighting, sword and sorcery thing goes. Because like even this is fairies and the magic shield and all that, but like I'm thinking like Ghost of Tsushima, but in Europe. Like what's the flesh and blood of gaming? Is there one?
That's a good question. A slug, Philly man.
Wait, a slug? What? What's going on in chat?
So, 3256, Michael Bay directs movies like the camera will explode if it stops moving under 50 miles per hour. I mean...
Yeah. Yes, he does.
Yeah, he keeps us...
I appreciate that in Ambulance, there are edits you can tell were made because within like the next 2 frames, the drone's about to hit the car or the building. It's zooming around or under. Like, oh yeah. Proper use of the tech.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Michael Bay is, funnily enough, worth bringing up with the conditioned states thing because for a while there...
Philly man thought we were talking about the lowest of the lowly fantasy enemies.
Oh, a slug. No, I mean like what game? Like is there a game where, I mean, you're just a dude with a... Like you're a knight in the Plague Times and it's like there's no magic system or anything. You're literally just like starving. Fighting another peasant king for like dirt.
Ooh, Kofi Streambot, thank you. Nice setup. Destroy it.
Oh yeah, Mountain Blade I've heard of. I've never like really looked into. There was that one multiplayer game we were playing, Jakob, where you're like, medieval warfare.
Yeah, what is that silly game? I love it. It's so much fun. Chivalry 2, that's what it is. That one's real fun, real chaotic battle. I got that one on a whim too.
I want like the Red Dead 2 or the Ghost of Tsushima of like medieval action gaming, you know?
What about the new one that just came out recently?
Avowed?
Talking about? No, not Avowed. Some other giant game, maybe not Mountain Blade, but something very similar to that everyone's been talking about more recently. It'll come to me later, or I won't. We'll find out. Help me, chat. Help me, chat. You're my only hope.
Kingdom Come Deliverance?
That's the one. Kingdom Come Deliverance. That one very much seems like it's in that kind of vein that you're talking about. So I don't know if it's like a mass multiplayer. I think it's just single player, but a lot of fun. Thank you, Philly man. And King of Mystery 2, I would say Fear and Hunger because you feel like a peasant starving, but it does have tons of magic.
Oh shit, secrets, oh crap.
Bad secrets with good secrets.
Yeah, this like necromancy blade magic.
Yeah. Get it. There were the Gothic games as well. Yeah. Vague memories of those.
Are those shooters? I don't remember.
I think so. Yeah, Gothic 1, 2, and 3. Were those shooters, or am I thinking of a
first
different
person
thing?
at least?
Yeah, like in first person.
Oh, it has magic though.
Oh, a Plague Tale 2. I forgot about a Plague's Tale. I haven't played those, but I have it, again, in the numerous game backlog that one day will be gotten to.
To speak to the intertext of how all these things are strung together, The Sword has a song called To Take the Black, which is why I found them. In addition to them being a Guitar Hero, they had additional songs based off J.R.R. Martin stuff, so I was like, okay, this is interesting. They got something nerdy going on. Who's this Yates fellow? Next thing I know, I'm learning about friggin' esotericism and about fairies and I don't want to say paganism because I know that's kind of like just a gross oversimplification of it.
Yeah, but like
In
things in
ways.
that.
But I believe it all falls under like esotericism is the kind of cover. Also like Gnosticism is some of it. Which Esoterica is a great channel that delves into Gnostic stuff.
Check it out.
If you're curious about what the demiurge is, check out Esoterica, fun channel on YouTube.
Nice. Worth a watch.
I haven't played a Plague Tale, but this is not what I'm asking for because it's a bit more modern, but definitely pandemic or pathologic, where there's a plague breaking out in town and you have to figure out what's causing it or get out of town, and it's very dry and realist. That's a quality game, kind of in the genre I'm looking for as far as the feel of things goes.
Mm.
Yes indeed, Wizworld. Brienne of Tarth, Sansa, Arya.
We love it. The best writer of women characters. I mean, he does write about women. It's kind of
Danny's final chapter in Dance, a masterpiece of, someone having diarrhea in the grasslands.
I mean, who hasn't done that? He writes about them, but he seems to not be a huge fan of them. He may be working through some stuff.
Yeah, I'm curious about that with just the essential idea of like, I wonder his need for like abuse as a piece of character growth, because I find it interesting in the books that there's like a sense of prophecy, and like even though the greatest of the not the greatest, I want to call Rob or Ned the greatest, they were like the performers for the chivalric system, yada yada.
Yeah, the morally right in the eyes of
He has survivors coming around on arcs, and I do wonder how much of Gurm's dramaturgical engine depends on them having to be survivors or victims of a system, because he is, in ways, trying to be, I think, critical of neoliberalism, but he also is a boomer and has some aspects of it, I think, that are just ingrained in him in ways that, like, for instance, the martyrdom, like the need for suffering for, like, the narrative to be respectable kind of a thing. Like, the people who endured in the right way through the system, kind of a mentality in his protagonism.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All the female characters he writes that are cool are tomboys. That is correct.
It's called the writer's thinly veiled fetish. Peeking its way through. Is he married? Does he have a wife? Is she a tomboy?
He is married. I don't know much about his wife, but like I don't really need to probe into that. But no, like, so Wizworld also. I'm in agreement with you, and I just want to keep talking about like that particular aspect of like the dissonant neoliberalism in George R. R. Martin's work as a critic of like the system he's kind of endured. Because, I mean, even as a kid before the TV show and stuff, I say as a kid, but when I found the books, it was like maybe 2002, 2003, Bush era. Mm-hmm. I very much still was like, oh, this is kind of like making fun of the Clintons. And then like Daenerys and the Storm of Swords, I was like, this feels kind of like George W. Bush. Because like it was just like, foreign invaders doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Seeing the through line of it.
From the final season. Okay. Did you read all the book? Have you read all the books? Because yeah, so I think there's this brewing paralysis that comes up because he's trying to articulate change on such a macro level, but the issue is like, well, like if his brain's minded towards individual protagonists, he's written so many dynamic individuals who've lived like these big fleshed out character lives within the narrative. And it's like, well, how do you weave that together into like a form of a show of solidarity? Like, how do you make it into a wider social metaphor and not just like individuals who've endured the worst parts of the system? And so, yeah, there's so much magic coming. See,
the magic.
Here I am just pausing Maximo to talk about Song of Ice and Fire. I was like, I know I'd get some mileage out of Gurm, but dang, maybe this is too much. Yeah, so that's what I find compelling about the books. That was totally out of the show. My friend, King of Mystery in the chat, I believe he's still here, not to dox him, but we've always joked that the showrunners just read the first book, and then they ran off the wiki for the rest of the show, and they didn't realize the kind of turn that was coming with the magic. Like, if you break the books into a set of like arcs in like a dramaturgical like tradition, you can kind of outline like a macro trilogy at this point, because there's 5 of them coming, and we kind of can triangulate from the show what's left to be done. And like those first 3 books, Through a Storm of Sword, that first whole movement of the story is about how the old systems of hegemony and like feudalism just, they aren't fit for what's coming, but boy howdy, they won't get the fuck out of the way because they're so fun to engage in. Like the gossip and the fucking palace intrigue and like the charm of the throne and like the sexiness of war. Like all of that's like so damn cool to so many of the characters that ultimately die in those first 3 books, while those who have been shafted by this system are surviving through the middle act of the story. But yeah, I strongly feel, complete headcanon theory, but D&D, the showrunners just read the first book, thought it was cool, and all that like palace intrigue drama stuff George was critical of, they just straight up loved, because it is reflective of like the neoliberal ethos at its most like schlockiest, gossipy, and engaging. No. I don't believe they do. I don't remember. They may have like tried in the early seasons. I don't know. King of Mystery, you gotta help me out here as far as like what the show doesn't do right to adaptation, because it's so much. But yeah, it's also like extremely cynical on the show's behalf when, again, there's magic reasserting itself in the world in ways that make metaphorical and like logical, consistent sense with the books and with the genre of fantasy.
The glass candle.
Yeah, it's a thing from the books with the maesters looking at it's the glass candle that signifies winter's coming, right? Okay, yeah.
I still need to read these books. I've only ever watched the show, and it definitely became...
I'm going to pitch what I did with the Count of Monte Cristo to you and to anyone else out there who's maybe trying to figure out a way to think of long books. Think of it as comics. Not only think of it as comics, but maybe read some comics. Jared Henderson, the YouTuber, has a really good video about how to get back into the habit of reading. And one of his suggestions is, to do it in small, short sessions, lubricate your brain back into just like regularly reading in little bursts, and then eventually get longer. Comic books are excellent for that. But I also say think of it for comics because, especially the way, Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, all that's written is chapter by chapter, it's a different character perspective.
Oh, gotcha, yeah, so time to...
And J.R.R. Martin was a disciplined TV writer. Like, each chapter is pretty, I'm not gonna say standalone because it's an elaborate interwoven story, damn it. But each chapter is pretty contained in the sense that like you can go at that kind of pace and it maintains interest. Earlier in this game, when I was talking about the Count of Monte Cristo, I talked about how like the Count of Monte Cristo was serialized before it was ever collected as like a 1,500-page book.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, I just thought of it as reading, like, a Batman omnibus. It's like, oh, yeah, just issue by issue. You can make it, baby. Just do that.
Yeah, piece by piece.
Piece by piece.
That definitely seems...
the only way out.
Yeah, truly. Favorite part is...
You talk about Fire and Blood? Because it is... Fire and Blood, like, the actual Fire and Blood text is written as an in-world history book, right? Yeah, I need to. I need to. But also, because of the tension I highlighted, which I think you can get a very, very valid read on from the text itself, this is why I don't mind. Like George R. R. Martin, you don't have to put out The Winds of Winter. Like, fuck anyone who tells you otherwise. You know why? Because if your artifact ends where it ends right now, it's reflective of the times and the context it was made in, and it still says a lot about shit going on in the real world. And I think a lot of nerds just want the plot to be solved, and they're missing the forest for the trees. I read like the Theon preview. I read the Theon preview. I think I read the Arya preview, and then I kind of stopped after that. And my roommate, she was doing a complete re-binge last time, just a few months ago, honestly. And when she was doing her reread, she told me about all the Winds previews, and there was like substantially more than I remembered. I know King of Mystery also pointed out to me some like Winds preview text that's only found because it's like on screen when he does like a bit for like fucking.
Oh yeah, some interview.
Was it the Colbert? Was it Colbert or like George R. R. Martin popped up on a skit somewhere, and yeah, there was an unreleased page from The Winds of Winter like on the screen. Oh man.
Story.
You know what, Jacob? You play the video games. I'm just gonna restart Game of Thrones from book 1. Oh no, yeah. One of the worst things about the show is just how bad they do how dirty they do the Greyjoys, because I love Victarion. He's so dumb, but it's so enthralling seeing him just like logic his way through a world where like, cause like, so Stannis reasoned his way through a world where magic is real in a way that like a cold pragmatic, like old pragmatic, like politician would. Victarion's just a barbarian who's like, oh shit, magic man, do things. I hate my brother. I want the princess for myself. Rawr. Like, it's great. It's great. Speaking of barbarians, I did want to weave Conan the Barbarian into this because Wizworld, you brought up Robert E. Howard, another stream, when we were talking about weird fiction dudes who aren't Lovecraft that people should look into.
He's good. I guess so.
And I bring that up because Conan the Barbarian's intelligent, beyond what people stereotype barbarians as. In fact, calling Victarion that in comparison, Victarion's way dumber.
Conan Omnibus. Ooh,
that sounds dope. There's like a 4-volume collection of like all of the Conan shorts. I forget which publisher put it out. I think it's Tor, but I have the first 2 in that collection so far.
Yeah.
It's like the Coming of Conan and the Bloody Crown of Conan. I have those 2 compilations, and then I have the Arrow 4K release of the John Milius movie, which very different but very valid, I think, and one of the most misunderstood fantasy movies. No, yeah, I think it unironically gets some shit about Nietzsche that like very few pieces of pop culture do. Which ties into what we're talking about overall with conditioned states here. I mean, within the movie, the Riddle of Steel is Conan's guiding purpose for the first half until, Thulsa Doom shows him that, sure, you have a sword, but I have a Colt. What is steel compared to the flesh? Yeah, that wields it. The flesh is stronger. What is your purpose, boy, if it's to kill me and you kill me? What happens after that?
Yep.
Yeah.
God, so good.
Yeah, because that movie's known for the line, crush your enemies, see them driven before you, hear the lamentation of their women. Often forgotten is that is the start of the film, and it is Conan in his early barbarian state. guided by the riddle of steel and the only principles he know being might is right.
Yeah.
That's his first conclusion. Yeah,
Bloody
while a
education while a
slave.
slave.
Yeah. And once he's liberated and he has to start questioning what the riddle of steel really means, and then has this villain so thoroughly both depersonalize his struggle, but then also render his whole philosophy moot. He has to reconstruct from that something new. And so it's about overcoming the barbaric, which is, again, pretty melancholic the way it ends. Yeah, exactly. Wizworld, you understand.
Wizworld gets it. You do want to learn that love is actually the best.
Also, just what a fantastic score. And while it features a princess to be rescued, it's sort of a return her to her father, patriarchal duty, reassurance of order thing. Again, the damsel in distress, while I know there's medieval poetry about it, as sex is like a direct conquest trophy. I mean, aside from like chivalric innuendo preventing you from making explicit statements about what's about what.
Yeah. Also, James Earl Jones.
Yeah, Arnold's delts. Yeah, James Earl Jones, shout out, R.I.P.
Yeah, with like arguably like the sassiest eye roll.
Oh, his eyes are so good when he turns away. And if you haven't seen James Earl Jones in Mate One, and you haven't seen Mate One,
ooh, yeah, also.
I only recently checked that out because I never knew about it until his passing. People were posting about it. Mate One being about the preamble to the Mate One, to the Battle of Mate One. It was part of the Coal Wars, Coal Country. Mate One out in Appalachia, I believe it's in West Virginia.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie's about that, and James Earl Jones is sort of the head of the black. He's sort of the organizer who speaks for the black coal miners in town. And boy howdy, what that man can do without speaking, not just in expressing sassiness like in Conan, but like sadness, regret, joy.
Yeah,
there's a whole sequence in Mate One where he expresses relief for something really horrible he almost has to do without saying a word.
Yeah.
And you feel it.
That man's got some soul in his eyes.
And that is...
Real life Superboy.
Oh yeah, and Conan?
Yeah.
The score in Conan too, just Dino De Laurentiis. Or, yeah.
Just everything firing off on all cylinders.
There's a track called Theology I really love. I really love just like the dude bro debate Crom has with Subutai over the gods. Like, Crom laughs at your four winds. My god is stronger. I keep hitting the bomb, dudes. This is bad. Yeah. Basil, yeah. De Laurentiis was the producer. My bad.